So I muted my mic. There, I muted the mic.
You muted yours?
But we're hearing them. Because Grace and I turned this up to 100 today. It's all the way up. It's fine.
Oh.
Yeah, you did the core, and I did 6, you're live.
What can we do about that?
Hey, John, do you mind taking your temperature? It's a new policy in the building. Sorry, I don't know how to do it. I'm not a nurse. 97, great. Sure.
We might. You said you had that volume turned all the way
I
up
can
on
turn it
that.
down. If maybe one of them starts talking, let's hear it. See what
Mike, can you hear me?
Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
Yes.
You might have to turn that.
Down.
Yeah, that was me unmuting.
I'm gonna mute because there's a lot of feedback. I'm gonna mute. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. A lot on my end. I'll just wait until somebody.
It's me.
How about now? More? Should I just turn myself all the way down?
Is this any better?
I think it gets worse. Hear that?
Well, it's coming from there to the microphone here. Sorry, guys, we're working through some technical stuff here.
Turn it all down.
Turn it down a little further.
Yeah.
Oh.
When you're not talking, if you turn off your microphone, it's like that with the feedback.
I went to Delaware conference to get mine.
Can you guys hear me okay? On the meeting?
John, do you want to look on if you want to, if I don't know if you can see where over there? Yeah, okay. I know, that's why.
Mike, would you mind just saying something real quick? We're just doing a little sound check here.
You can come a little closer this way. if you want. You could roll your chair all the way over
You
to
guys able to hear
this
that? Try
chair.
turning it up a little bit.
Well, I think for the TV and the group, this one sounds better, but you need to come off of mute, you mean?
Well, I'm off mute now.
I mean, you would have to stay muted, I guess.
Eric,
Oh, no,
you should be on when you speak.
Okay.
And when this guy speaks.
Hold just hold on 1 second.
Okay.
So much using.
I know. Eric can do wiring to go straight.
Okay.
I know, so let's just get this, if you just don't mind 1 second. Okay, ask me to say something?
All right, I think we've got it. Is everybody on? Can everybody hear? Can everybody see?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, great. This is the April 14th regular Shandaken Planning Board meeting. If everyone would please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Here.
Art Christie,
Here.
Joanne Powell, John Horn. Here. Alan Shiner.
Here.
Here.
Okay. Sam Spada,
Here.
Vivian Welton.
Here.
Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members present.
Great. Okay, I'm just going to start with a quick announcement. COVID-19 Moderna vaccines will be available at the Shandaken Town Hall this coming Tuesday, April 20th, from noon to 7. You can call the town clerk if you don't want to do it online. To register over the phone, the number is 845-688-5004. To do it online, go to vaccinateulster.com. All right. Did everyone have a chance to look over the minutes that Sarah sent out?
I did.
Anyone have any comments or?
job of doing the minutes.
Yeah, they were wonderful.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
This is a nice layout for the agenda.
Good, thanks.
If there are no further comments, could I get a motion to accept the minutes?
So
Yes.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. There are some training opportunities for the planning board members for,
That's,
what's that?
sorry.
From the Cornell Cooperative Extension from Brent Goach. Do we have this email?
I think, I can send it again. I
Okay.
thought-
Sarah will resend the email if anyone's interested in signing up for our continuing ed credits. Flood map basics, flood insurance basics, elevation certificate basics, floodway encroachment and no rise certification basics. Just let her know who's interested in what and you can sign up. Okay. All right, moving on to Firelight. So,
Okay, thank you.
where we're at on this is, we're basically waiting to hear back from Chippewa, correct? And there was something from DEC, is that right, Ellen?
Yeah, we're waiting to, well, we heard back from Chippewa and they requested a phase 1B survey. And then we are still waiting to hear back from Lisa Massey at DEC regarding the timber rattlesnakes. And then, go ahead, Cliff.
That's fine. So as far as the SHPO thing goes, did everyone have a chance to see Mike's letter that he sent out? So I know you guys are anxious to move forward, which I totally understand. You have your historian here, Joe Diamond, on with us?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So I guess my question for you is, could you explain why you feel that it doesn't need this Phase 1B and SHPO feels it does?
The reason I don't think it needs a Phase 1B is because the vast majority of the project on the side from, let's say, that terrace all the way to the creek is only river cobbles with very little soil development. It's all keeps getting washed away over and over again. And then on the other side of it, along the road, you actually have another stream channel. And so the area in between gets flooded, as we all know, now and then, and with Irene and Lee and then other things. And in the past, this was probably much, much worse. And I just think that if there was anything there, it would have been brought downstream and deposited in the Ashokan Reservoir years ago.
Okay. And why do you think SHPO might be requesting this more in-depth look?
Well, they have a thing about floodplains. Probably about 10 years ago, somebody came out with an article out in the Shenango Valley along the Susquehanna and the Shenango rivers, and they started to find deeply buried sites in the floodplain silts out there. So in a lot of cases now, we actually use backhoes, and I've used backhoes in the lower Esopus, and all I found are cobbles. I don't really think that there's a lot of soil development there. You don't have a lot of silts or sands. You actually have cobbles and boulders with maybe a little bit of humus on top of it. So I just don't think there's going to be anything there. It's also, Cliff, it's in a narrow, restricted area where when you have high water, it washes everything away. I mean, down here on the lower Esopus, we have sites on the floodplain that probably go down about, 40 or 50 centimeters. Mm-hmm. But I don't expect a lot up there.
Okay.
Cliff, if I can
just jump in really quick and make a point.
Sure.
This is Matt Moss from Firelight. We're not objecting to doing the Phase 1B investigation. I mean, we're not disagreeing with Dr. Diamond's expertise, but to keep our process moving, we absolutely are willing to do that investigation. I think the issue for us here is whether the seeker determination needs to wait for that investigation to take place. And I think the gist of Michael's letter was that it's our position that it does not. But we're not objecting to doing the Phase 1B. We absolutely will. Dr. Diamond had a interaction with the agency whereby they agreed to limit that investigation to the areas that don't flood regularly, the areas in the center of the property that are outside of the floodplain. And within that zone, any areas that we intend to disturb, we absolutely will go out and dig the required number of holes, sift the material to make sure that there's no artifacts in those locations.
Okay, understood. Thank you. So, to the rest of the board listening, we're required to make a seeker determination, which requires us to take what's called a hard look at all the facts and to decide whether or not we can make a negative declaration of adverse impact. And they submitted to us on, was it March 20th? Is that right? They gave us this report on March 20th.
18th.
March 18th, excuse me. We turned it in shortly after. It was pretty soon, right?
Sorry, I think it was March 8th and the 18th. Yeah, within like a week
and
or
then
two.
Chippewa, nobody, I don't think really expected them to come back with requesting this, but they did, this Phase 1B. And the applicants are requesting that we make a negative declaration without it. And the question is whether we think it's necessary or whether we think we've had enough look at the information to say that we're happy with what we have and are comfortable moving forward. Does anybody have any questions for Joe Diamond or for Matt?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is for Dr. Diamond. So, in my experience with Chippewa and with the work that you do, there's generally a period of going into the literature, whether it's old newspapers, historical records. Is there anything in the historical record that would lead you to think there could be something here?
Well, SHPO no longer requires us to go into the historical record. What we actually look for now, we look at the map evidence. So at one end of the property, you actually have like an older 19th century house. That's not going to be impacted by construction. We don't really go into like newspapers or, we used to go into the gazetteers, like the 1824 Spafford, the I think the 64 Spafford, and we used to integrate all that, and that requirement dropped out about 2005.
So in your personal experience, are you aware of anything in the record?
Not from the historic period, and when I looked at the prehistoric stuff, one of the requirements now is that you go to the CHRIS site, which is the State Historic Preservation Office, their database of archaeological sites, and there might have been something on the other side of the creek, I think. It might have been within a 1 mile radius, but there's, and I forgot to look at it before the meeting, but there's really nothing in that particular area that is Native American. And I've also done some other projects in Shandaken on the other side of the bridge in Woodland Valley, and then a couple of others up in Woodland Valley, yeah, and haven't found anything.
And when you say prehistoric, that's another way of saying pre-colonial, pre-Columbian.
Exactly, yeah. It's called pre-contact and Native American stuff, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure, Vivian. Are you guys able to hear Vivian?
Yes.
Yeah.
If we do not yet have the word about the rattlesnakes, can we still go ahead and not give a neg deck?
Did you catch that, Ellen?
Yeah. So in my advisory role to the planning board. There's just a few things that I would note. The board is responsible under seeker for, assessing potential environmental impacts as a result of the proposed action. So you need to look at the context, the probability of occurrence, the duration of impact, the irreversibility of impact, the geographic scope, the magnitude, and the cumulative impacts. And this is a tall order for the board. And I think by undertaking a thorough assessment, the board can then demonstrate that you're taking a hard look and meeting that standard under seeker. And it's entirely proper for the board to place reasonable reliance upon advice and information provided by outside agencies. So in a typical review situation under seeker, input would be sought from SHPO and from DEC. That's the route that would be taken. I know you spoke earlier today with the town attorney to get some advice, and he mentioned that the conservative route would be for the board to wait for SHPO's determination. And I would agree with that assessment. And also just note that we are still waiting for Lisa's input as well.
Can I offer a few points on this topic as well? Similar to the SHPO request for Phase 1B, we stand ready to implement any measures that the DEC sees fit when they come back with respect to the rattlesnake issue. If they want us to monitor for the rattlesnake, we know from our own habitat study that was submitted to the board that this property is not a suitable nesting site for the rattlesnakes. I don't think there's a implication from I don't think anyone's suggesting that it is. And as such, it's a mitigatable impact to the extent that the impact exists. And I just wanted to, say that we stand ready to do that mitigation that they recommend.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, can you let the board know what you were telling me about in terms of financing and your timing and things of that nature?
Yeah. I was relaying to Mike why this is important to us, that we keep the process moving. And it really boils down to the fact that we're a seasonal business. The delays caused by COVID, tying into, some, unforeseen circumstances have kind of put us in jeopardy of not being able to start construction this fall, which means we won't be open, next year. For our business to make sense, we really need to be open in June, maybe it could be July, but once we start rolling into the back half of July, we're into August, and then, that only leaves us a few months of operation before our season is over. To the extent that we're pushed into 2023, that just kind of puts our whole trajectory off track. We're committed to the project for sure. We do intend to be here, but I think it would be, it is important to us and to the financing we have lined up and the structure of the project that we get underway this year. And we believe that proceeding forward with the neg deck, there's site plan and special permit behind. We believe that if we follow the expected path, we will be in construction this year. We will be open next year, which will be beneficial for all. That's why it's important to us.
Understood.
Joe, do you have a sense of how long it would take to put together the Phase 1B report and then hear back from SHPO?
Just as a side note, I just went to the report, and there are no sites within 1 mile, which basically indicates it's not like a high probability area. It depends on the weather. I have to figure out how many shovel tests. I have to, put the report together, get it up to them, and then hope that they don't have a backlog of stuff. So I don't really have a time frame. It's just I try to do it as soon as possible and hope for a quick turnaround. I mean, I can't come up with a time frame and then expect people to SHPO office to stay with that if they don't even know, anything about it.
What's a typical turnaround time in past
Um,
experience?
For a 1B, it's generally about maybe 3 weeks plus. I can get it done in about 2.5 weeks. And then basically, it's not really it's the shovel testing, it's putting everything on maps, it's putting the report together, and then of course it's, then when you submit these, they go into a queue, and they basically take them as they come in.
So Cliff, may I offer an opinion?
Sure, please.
So, my opinion is that I'm perfectly comfortable with the neg deck. Not for the economic reasons that Matt mentioned. I sympathize with those, but economic hardship is not a reason to take this action because it's serious. But what I've heard from Dr. Diamond, and from the fact that if construction is going to be monitored and something should be uncovered, there's a process to stop and take a look. We can prevent something irreversible happening. And I think if we have some undertaking from the applicant that that's the case, that's what they'll do, I'm comfortable saying neg deck from everything that I've heard about the unlikelihood, the lack of probability that something is going to be found, and rely on the applicant to do the right thing as they go forward, to do a 1B in parallel with, and as I said, if something's uncovered, that'll stop things.
Sam, this is Mike. I agree. It's why I mentioned towards the end of my memorandum, I mentioned that the board does have options, and I think that Matt will be fine with saying that if something comes up and we have to stop, and it's something of a large magnitude, we would be willing to have the board rescind the negative declaration if they had to, or amend it to include the documentation that's necessary to make the determination. So that offer still stands. From a timing standpoint, it would get us where we need to go and would give some measure of comfort to the board. We can't condition the neg deck on that because it's a type 1 action. I had this conversation with Ellen, and we don't want to say, here are the conditions. I mean, we can voluntarily offer that as the applicant, and say to the board that if that occurs, we will be fine with amending the neg deck or even rescinding it until we can deal with the issue. Correct, Matt?
That is correct. Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with what Sam just said, and I also agree that it does not look like any suitable habitat for the timber rattlesnakes because there's a natural barrier between their den and the campground, which is basically on an island. So I wouldn't have a problem with issuing the neg deck personally. And I like what they said about being careful about monitoring the work.
Okay. John, anything?
I would say go for this neg deck.
Alan, what are your feelings?
I'm fine.
I agree with Sam and Mike, both for going with a neg deck, and if something should come up, they do agree to address it at that time.
All right. Well, seems like you made your case very thoroughly, Joe. I appreciate that.
So Cliff, what I can do is, Phil Perazio from Chippewa has kind of outlined the areas where he would like me to test, and has told me specifically to say why I'm not going to test in other areas. I could do the shovel testing in that, and as soon as I'm done, I could put together an end of field work letter for the board. How would that be?
That would be good. I have a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
As far as the testing areas, how do they correlate with the site plan?
the areas that Phil wanted tested were not in the areas that, that get flooded a lot. They're just up at a slightly higher elevation. On one of the maps, they appear to be gray. So they're that kind of big terrace in the middle of the project area that's got, I think it's got like a soccer field on it right now. And then there's also kind of a location right up where the Uncle Pete's main office is, which I would test also because it's up off the floodplain. But,
So the,
Cliff, if I can just offer as well that the areas that we are going to disturb that are within that area are primarily where our lobby's going to go and where the septic fields are going to go, or that upper terrace. Those are the primary areas of our intended disturbance that's within that terrace zone.
okay. So none of the, so the lobby would be the construction, the building construction, and then the septics would be the other construction.
Primarily, yeah.
Okay.
So Cliff, we dig a hole every 50 feet on a grid, and then basically shovel test the soils there and look for different kinds of artifacts. Based on what I've seen in the lower area along the creek, there's not really a lot of soil development because it keeps getting washed away. There might be slightly more up on the terrace, but just kind of walking around up there when I did the phase 1A, it doesn't look like a lot, but we'll see.
How deep a hole do you dig?
If it's in really nice soils, we go down about 40 centimeters. In a situation like a stream bottom, which is kind of what the project area is, we might go down 20 centimeters and just be in solid cobbles and boulders. So we would stop. We're not going to basically shovel test through stream sorted river cobbles and boulders.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I guess we're all comfortable with it. So we can move forward with the negative declaration.
Cliff, two questions.
Yes.
Number one, what we did last time with branches.
Yes.
If you remember, I drafted a draft and then sent it to Ellen, and then Ellen changed it around and fluffed it up and made changes on it, and then sent it to the board. Would you like us to do that way again? And then the second question is, does this board adopt neg decks at its workshop meeting or only at the regular meeting?
At the regular meeting only.
Okay.
Yeah. But we can, the back and forth could happen in between.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I was
I'll
actually.
I'll get it to Ellen to look at.
Okay. All right, we still have to wait to hear back from Lisa Massey, so that's,
what?
I guess that's it though, right? It's just those two things, and then, so can we, I'm trying to remember the order of operations. Ellen, can we set a public hearing now? Public hearing date?
So the neg deck has to be adopted. Mike, can you jump in on this one? Can the public hearing happen at the same meeting, or it needs to happen at the following one?
It could happen at the same meeting, but the neg deck has to occur first. You'd have to have you would have to have the neg deck adopted first under the Kitteridge criteria, but you could, at the next regular meeting, theoretically have the public hearing on the site plan and the special use permit.
Okay.
So Cliff, what I'm understanding from the board is that you're comfortable not waiting for SHPO or Lisa Massey and going forward with the neg deck?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem,
Okay.
there was no timber rattler sites nearby, right? Is that, am I correct with that, guys? The timber rattler?
Ellen, do you, who does,
Yeah,
do the
it's
notice
it's
for the
across the
public
street.
hearing? Will you do it, or does,
Sarah's been
Sarah
taking care
does
of
it?
that.
Okay.
Sarah does that.
But, so, is Mike saying that you have to start your monthly meeting first and make your neg deck? And then close to an open,
Exactly, yeah.
and then,
Because we're approving it now, but we have to kind of fine tune the language
Sure.
of it, and then, so we're adopting it now, but not like
Right.
officially.
so you'll first have a monthly meeting and then you'll go to a public hearing
Yes.
that night? Okay.
Yes, we'll have to schedule it in that order, because I have to sign it, and,
Yeah,
that's what we did for branches.
well, if you make the motion for a public hearing, you would have it after though, right?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. So, you guys comfortable moving this to public hearing now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, hang on. I muted myself. All right. So we ready to move this to public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah? All right, somebody wanna make a motion?
Sure.
Do I have, 'cause I mean, we have to set the public
Yeah,
hearing.
you
now.
have to make a,
We have to do it now, and then we have to have the meeting and sign it, and then, all right. So Art made the motion
to set the
to
public
set the
hearing
public hearing
for,
for Firelight for next week,
it would be
or next month.
Next
May
meeting.
12th.
Let's make it, we can't do it at 7, it has to be like 7:15 or something.
Sure, because you're gonna,
Yeah.
okay,
Second.
okay. Clifford Bufo,
Yes.
Art Christie,
Yes.
Joanne Cow, John Horn,
Yes.
Alan Shiner,
Yes.
Sam Spada.
Yes.
All right, so, May 12th at 7:15 PM is the public hearing for Firelight.
And Cliff, that same night too, this requires a referral to the Ulster County Planning Board
Yeah,
under 239M of the General Municipal Law, so I was figuring if you, the way General Municipal Law reads, it says, a full statement of the proposed action must be sent to the planning board, and that.
We have to submit that now, yes.
Yeah, well, it's been interpreted to mean either everything you need for your neg deck or the neg deck itself too with it. So you could either send it now, or you could wait until that meeting and send it, which would mean that the board,
No, we have to send it
the
now.
Ulster County Planning Board wouldn't meet until June,
right,
but we probably wouldn't get a written decision before then anyway,
right.
Final conditional approval. So it's up to the board what they'd like to do. We could always send the draft neg deck to the Ulster County Planning Board too, so.
Well, that makes sense to do it as timely as we can.
Yeah.
So
You're-
you,
I think, yeah, we'll send the draft neg deck to them.
okay,
Yeah.
you wanna
yeah.
go now?
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
can do it.
for
We
their
gotta
feedback.
get that process rolling so they can have a chance to
Yes.
comment back.
Yeah,
Very good.
they just never want you to
So
make
Mike,
a
do you
final
wanna send it to me
determination
and I'll
without their
take a look
feedback.
and then
Right,
Share
exactly.
it with the board and then we'll send it on.
Yeah, I'll try
Yes.
to get you something by next week, to look at, and then you can change it around and we'll get it to the board and then we'll have time to get it over to Dennis Doyle, so.
I have to get it to the county by 10 days prior to their next meeting, and their next meeting's May 5th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, 7:15, May 12th is your public hearing. You're gonna get that draft neg deck submitted, so we can get that. You said May 5th is there.
But 10 days prior, I have to, and
Yes.
they let me do 10 days, actual days, not business.
Okay, great.
1, 2, 3,
So it's like that
4, 5,
Monday,
6, 7, 8, 9.
26th?
Yeah, the 26th has to all be submitted by.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes,
These people who are, on the Zoom call, whatever it is
yes.
that their choice or is it because the building is locked down?
is actually their choice. By pure coincidence, everybody wanted to come in remote. Except us.
Yeah, one of our applicants has health issues, and then the other two applicants chose to do this. And next month, the town hall opens up, all meetings are open to public, so I think we'll have
Yeah,
to.
we will not be remote next month, just so you guys know. In-person attendance will be required again, I guess. That's what
I
we're.
guess, yeah.
Until
I
thing.
vote for remove the meetings to Snyder's Tavern.
To what?
I vote for remove the meetings to Snyder's Tavern.
Sounds great.
Does anybody have any questions for them?
So the answer was that it's their choice to be doing it this way,
Yes.
not, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is Sam. I've got a project in Utica, and it's
He's
a
still.
bit of a drive back. So, and I'm going to be here for a couple more months. I'll see if I can be in Shandaken on the 12th, but I can't guarantee it.
Are we required to be in person when the town hall is open? And does that end our remote option?
I think that we have to do,
You're really asking the wrong person.
yeah, I think we have to check because
Yeah.
COVID is still here.
Everything
you know?
is certain until it changes.
Right.
So I would assume that nothing's going to change that.
But we
way
have
unless
rule.
notified.
We're allowed to call in also.
Oh,
Like
okay.
that's something that's always been in place. We just never utilized. So I suppose Sam could still join remotely from Utica.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to discourage board member attendance, so we have run into quorum issues. But as far as Firelight, does anybody have any further questions for them? All right, so you guys are done for the evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good
it.
night.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
I think a lot of the remote people should watch themselves at the other end of what we're seeing, because people don't realize that it's an entirely different environment. And they're mumbling and they're too close to the screen or too far away, or they're bouncing around, and they don't realize how bad that is on TV.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
maybe they're listening.
Duly noted, at least ever. All right, next item. Do we have anybody from Orem here?
Please say yes.
Yes.
I'm here, Cliff, so.
Who was that? You don't have a,
Mike Moriello, I'm here.
oh, okay.
Is Luke there?
Is,
I think Matt is here too, I believe. I saw his
Rudico?
name before.
Yes.
oh, hi, Matt.
And
You guys-
Luke, I'm sorry, I
That's
sent
okay.
the link to Luke. Is Luke Entrante on?
Is
No.
Luke here?
No, Luke is not coming.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got Matt and Mike. Okay, guys, what do you have for us?
Mike, do you want to start it off, or do you want me to start it off?
No, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. You're much more familiar with the project, I think, than I am.
Well, I did speak, Luke is sorry he couldn't be here tonight.
Could-
And I did speak with Alan before the meeting, but only a few hours ago. But I think we got into some agreement in terms of where we stand. And so what my understanding is, and I'm just going to give an overview, is that Ellen is still checking on where we are with the lead agency status, and she'll report on that because she was going to look into that a bit more before the call. But that's still something that we're not sure of. But we do know that the board, Ellen had said that the board did decide that they want to do the coordinated review, which is fine with us, but we just have to make sure that the lead agency circulation is handled, and Ellen will talk about that. Where we are is, and from my conversation with Ellen, she had said that from the January letter, and this is something that we'll have to get cleared up, but she said that from the January letter that the board was still expecting to see from us revised site plans that dealt with drainage, that dealt with some of the architectural schematic approaches to how we're dealing with this, and also the wetlands mapped on one of the plan sheets. Well, I just spoke with Luke, and Luke says that all those submissions were made in February. So that's something that we have to just sort of check on where they are, and because if Luke had submitted them, I would think they would have gone to Ellen, but if Ellen said she didn't, and I certainly know that she'll keep track of her files, so we have to double check on that and where those pieces are. We thought we were responsive to that point. In fact, we thought that with those plans submitted, and not having heard back comments, now we haven't gotten comments back, because Ellen hasn't seen the plans, but with those issues to still be looked at, we thought that the only outstanding issues we really were facing were, of course, just like your prior application, comments from Lisa Massey about the rattlesnake. And we have, since our last meeting, have made a submission to Lisa Massey, not a full-blown report, but just the plans and a summary from our EAF addressing the rattlesnake, but really asking her what kind of measures she would want us to possibly consider, because like the prior application, we're not in an area where the den is located, and so we are off-site. And not to say that the snakes don't travel or come by the site, but there'd be certain things they want us to do. So we're waiting for that as well. And of course, we're also waiting for our final approvals from DEP and DEC and the Department of Health. And the reason why we're pretty sure we made the submissions to the town was because it was the same plan set that we submitted to DEP and the Department of Health. So as I said, we'll check back on that. But we knew that was something that we're still, we still don't have their approvals. So, but with that said, we also think that our application is certainly complete enough, because you've seen the submissions we made to the Department of Health. You've seen our correspondence with them, so you know that we're involved with making those approvals happen, which is sort of a ministerial action at this point, not so much of a secret kind of an action. So we would also like to refer to the county, and what we'd also like to do is, since we sort of don't have much in the way of real environmental impacts at this point, we know we have the snake issue, which is the primary environmental issue that we have, and of course we've submitted our full EAF, but we would like to submit for the board's consideration and to keep things moving a part 2 of the FEAF, and that's again only a draft, and we prepared a draft of that part 2, and it's been under review by Mike, and we have to do some further editing of it, but we'd like to be able to submit that to you, because what that does is it gives you a good outline which you can use to discuss each of the environmental issues, which is the discussion that's supposed to happen with the board have among itself, and that way you can move towards understanding if you're ready to move towards a negative declaration, and of course that would be, we'd have to see what happens with Lisa Massey, or if you wanted to deal with us in the same way you dealt with the prior application. So we'd like to submit a draft of a part 2, we'd like to submit a draft of a neg deck, leaving holes, leaving unaddressed the areas where there'll be input for the snakes, in terms of what happened with the snakes, and input for where we are with sewer and water from DEP and DEC. So we would like to move forward with some of those procedural matters. A report from Ellen on the, just repeating now, a report from Ellen on the lead agency, confirming a request from the board that we can submit a draft part 2 and a draft neg deck, and get our referral to the county done. And my understanding is that you, on the public hearing front, could be a similar arrangement as to what you just done. So Ellen or Mike, please jump in and fill in the gaps from where we are.
Yeah, so last time we talked about the lead agency's circulation issue. I was under the understanding that you guys were going to look into that further. I wasn't on board when the package was dropped off to the town and potentially circulated. So if you wouldn't mind looking into that further and getting some sort of...
I don't know how to look into it. I mean, we checked with Ulster County Planning, and someone there said they thought that maybe they got it, and someone else checked with the Department of Health because the engineer's been working with them, so they asked about it, and someone there said, well, maybe they got it, but I don't.
And no one has a record of having it?
I don't, certainly.
Matt, let me ask this, do you know who mailed it out? I mean, we could get an affidavit from whoever mailed it out.
No, we dropped off the copies as instructed at Town Hall, and we just had, 8 or 10 self-addressed envelopes, and then we also did another, for the next circulation, I think, which I think was accomplished, we also did a revised lead agency circulation package based upon the revised plan. But we're sort of at a loss on that. We don't know how to do that or check, because one of the things that we know for sure would be that if the circulation had occurred, you will always get a letter from DEC. You can rest assured, and particularly where they have an endangered species, in the vicinity of the site, we always get a letter from DEC, which has their standard clauses. So is it possible to check in Town Hall to see if there's a letter from DEC somewhere?
Have you seen anything?
No, I saw the meeting.
And when do you think the revised EAF went out? I'm not familiar with that happening.
So I don't really know how we, the applicant, would really sort of look into that further. I mean, Michael, unless you have a suggestion for that.
No, Matt, I think Ellen was asking, when did the revised EAF go out?
I don't know, I have to check on that date. I don't think it went, I don't know, if you mean out from us, well, we have to check on where that is, but I don't think it went out from the town. So we'll check on the revised EAF.
Right.
It's a little bit of a mystery for us.
Yeah, I feel, what I'm remembering is that, to be certain that it went out, you guys were just gonna handle it yourselves and send it out.
You were gonna perform, you were gonna give
I
us,
thought that was the case.
you were gonna provide us with some sort of written proof that you
Because
had.
you were in between having a secretary.
Yeah,
planning
we
board
couldn't,
was.
we couldn't find a record of it, so you said you were just gonna do it and then let us know, provide us written documentation that you had done it.
You mean they actually make the circulation for you? You actually send it to the involved agencies?
Yeah, I think that's what we agreed upon.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
You can do that, Matt, you can do that, that's proper too, and then just give, like I said, you give an affidavit or a letter or something, that says that, I'm the person who mailed it, and here's what we sent.
Okay, of course we can do that. We'll get you the package to review, Mike, to make sure that we have all the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then in terms of the revised plan set, I'll just either have to get it from the town, or if they don't have it, then if you can resend it to me.
Yeah.
And I'll review that right away. Get any comments to you that if there are any. I'm comfortable with them submitting a part 2 of the EAF and beginning review of that and getting comments to the board, if that works for you.
Yeah, we'd love to do, we'd like to do that for the next deck too, because they sort of work together.
And then, Cliff, if it's all right, I'll just speak a bit about public hearings for this project.
Sure, please.
So back in March, at the planning board meeting, the applicant requested a public hearing be held as part of the seeker process, and prior to the planning board moving forward with the seeker process, because they were interested in getting input from neighbors in the community. But on further investigation, it turns out that the seeker public hearing cannot be held until the planning board makes a determination of significance, either negative or positive, on the proposed project. And this mandatory timing of the public hearing stems from the legal case that we mentioned with the last project, the Kitteridge versus the planning board of the town of Liberty, which found that the planning board must make an initial seeker determination before the public hearing is held. But I just want to emphasize to the board and to the public that a public hearing will be held as part of this, the review process for this project. It'll either be held after a negative declaration is issued, and an environmental impact statement is not required, then the public hearing will be held as part of the site plan review process or the special use permit review process. The public hearing notice will be sent to all abutting properties and those within 200 feet of the proposed project. They'll receive a certified letter in the mail. It will also be notified, there will also be a notification in the town's official newspaper, which is the Kingston Freeman, and there'll be a notice on the town's website under the town business tab. And this notification will be circulated a minimum of 10 days prior to the hearing, 10 calendar days. And then if anyone is interested in the public at looking at the plans prior to this point, you can contact the planning board secretary, Ms. Sarah Pellizzari, and she can be reached at 845-688-5008, and you can set up an appointment with her to come view the documents. And the other possible scenario for having a public hearing would be if a positive declaration was issued under seeker, then the public hearing would be held as part of the environmental impact statement review process. And then in addition, as part of the site plan review process. So I just wanted to assure anyone in the public that is concerned about giving input on the project that there will be a public hearing held for this project.
Thank you, Ellen.
Does that mean that if we have a positive secret, there will be 2 hearings?
The seeker hearing, public hearing is optional. That's if we feel it's necessary.
So even if...
Well, if there's a positive declaration and you go through the environmental impact statement process, then there's a required public hearing as part of that process.
So if we can't come with a neg deck, then we have to have it. But if we do come with a neg deck, then it's optional. That's correct?
Right.
Where do we stand with the floodplain evaluation? Does that have to be signed off on by an agency?
This parcel isn't within any floodplain area.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
Wetlands.
The wetlands.
Yeah.
The wetlands, I believe, are isolated wetlands and are not under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers.
And we're not disturbing it.
And that too, yeah.
Okay, so is everybody clear on the next steps? Matt, you're gonna circulate for lead agency and provide us written proof. You're gonna provide draft part 2 EAF, Mike, and a draft neg deck so Ellen can review that. And we're not sure
also
if
the revised plans.
The revised plans.
Yeah, you should just send them to us. There's no point in even looking.
Yeah.
Just send them to us.
Okay.
Did I forget anything?
The only thing would be referral to the county. Can we refer this to Ulster County Planning?
I don't know. Are we complete enough to refer this to the planning? It seems like there's a lot of questions in the air still.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, I think we need to review these documents first.
Yes, I
Like
agree.
the plans, I would think the plans.
I think Ellen is right, we probably should wait on the referral, especially until we can get some part 2 and,
Yeah.
maybe a draft.
We got a lot of.
The draft neg deck is gonna have some, I would imagine, some blanks in it, because we don't know the answers yet, but we'll, going on it, so, okay.
Good. That's everything.
Okay. Excellent. If that's all, then thank you, everyone, and have a nice evening.
Cliff, just on Orem, the next meeting.
Yes.
Is a workshop meeting, or should we plan to be here May 12th, or?
The workshop, if we'll probably have stuff to discuss with you guys, I would imagine. We'll have the plans, and we'll probably have questions, or you know, I would plan on being at the workshop as well.
And that date is what, please?
That date is,
March 31st.
No,
Ap-
no.
Ap-
I mean, April 28th, sorry.
It's okay.
April 28th, yes,
Thank you.
at 7 PM.
And that meeting will be in person, right? Not,
I was just about to say, I don't know the answer yet, I'm sorry, Mike. Yeah, when we get closer, when we see where we're at with what we have for you guys and what you have for us, we'll make that determination. And whether the town hall is open.
Well, they're not gonna be open until next month.
I'm sorry.
When is the town hall opening back up?
Next month.
Oh, so the town hall won't be open.
What day is that? May?
Yeah,
21st?
I know that the next town board meeting should be open to the public. I don't know that town halls, I don't know.
It's gonna be remote, I think.
Ever changing, the more COVID positive cases that come up can also, I don't know.
So it could get delayed. It's not
It
gonna
can
be
get
sooner,
delayed
but it could be
easily.
later.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys catch that?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, we did.
And I didn't, I mean, that's an unofficial, I heard, you know, what
The
am
world
I?
we live in. All right. So remote, the workshop will be remote. The meeting might not. The meeting, as of now, won't be.
Okay.
When do we think the revised stuff will be at the town hall? If I wanted to come in and review it beforehand.
Which revised material are you referring to?
That what we just discussed.
Well, the plans that we're submitting, they were, those are ready now, so that should be immediate, because we submitted them back in February. So that'll be, that'll maybe be tomorrow or Monday. The draft, the part 2 and the neg deck, I would say that could be more towards the end of next week, but before the 28th. So hopefully, Ellen will have a chance to review the plans and also the neg deck, draft neg deck and the draft part 2. The EAF circulation also should be able to happen early part of next week. So those materials will be in town hall, as soon as they're available, but on short notice. I mean, not on short notice, in a short time frame.
Yeah, Matt, just that I should say to the board, just for clarification, if the revised lead agency notice to serve as lead agency, the seeker notice to serve as lead agency, hasn't been circulated, or was recently circulated, or is recently circulated, we'll need to let 30 days go by before anything official can happen from a seeker standpoint. So we do have to find out if it's been sent out, because that date is critical to get the 30 days going.
But we know we didn't send it out, so the town would know. But as I said, we'll double check that tomorrow and get back to everybody tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
All set.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you and good night. Appreciate it.
Good night. All right. Next, we have a lot line revision. Dennis Ryan, are you on here?
Oh, Dan McCarthy.
This is Dan McCarthy.
Oh, okay.
From Victorious and Conrad. I'm representing Dennis Ryan.
We have a letter from Dennis Ryan allowing him,
Okay.
saying he's representing us.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. You just want to discuss the project quickly for the record?
Yes, what we have was a problem with encroachment. My client, Dennis, had built a shed, a playground, a bluestone patio, fencing and stone wall that encroached onto his neighbor's property and I'd say about 20 feet over, almost 20 feet. So when the neighbor was selling her property, she wanted this straightened out, and so they did. They went into agreement with the new owners, the people buying the property, that they would agree on doing a lot line adjustment instead of removing the shed and the patio and playground area. And so Dennis hired us to do that, and it resolves the problem. A bad situation that exists, we made the best of that we could. And holding 10 feet off of the shed, that provided a roughly a 25 foot additional land into the neighbor's property that Dennis is acquiring. And it doesn't run from the road all the way to the back yards. It runs about halfway through the backyards to the road. But it's from the road about 200 feet back. And originally the line was about 420 feet. So it's about half the distance, and about 20 feet wide is what Dennis is going to acquire from his neighbor. And in the acreage, that's about 1/10 of an acre, and that he's acquiring. He's going to add it on to his existing 9/10 of an acre, and he'll have roughly an acre. And his neighbor who is selling off the land, she has 2.4 acres around that, and she's going to lose, as I said, about 1/10 of an acre when it's all said and done. Those are just rounded figures. The existing zoning is for 3 acres, and we have a situation where it was non-conforming pre-existing. This was prior to the zoning being set up for 3 acres in that area. And so I guess I covered it. If there's any questions, please ask.
I think that was very thorough. Thank you.
I think we did discuss this at the
We,
workshop.
we did, yeah, and we determined that it makes, they're both small lots, but it makes, it helps slightly, it moves everything in the right direction and it solves a problem, so. I mean, it is the best possible solution.
Yeah, there aren't many lots that are along that particular subdivision when they were built. None of them conform to the 3 acre standard. If you were to go further up the street, and even out by the road, by the main road, you'll find a couple that are there. There's about 4 in 20, or 25. About 4 of them meet that standard, so. But this is a bad situation we're trying to resolve, an encroachment issue. So he can clear title to it and with his neighbor.
We don't need public hearings for lot line divisions, right?
No.
No.
I
All
see
right.
this as a good solution.
Yeah, I think this is it.
I
So,
make a motion to accept the application for lot line adjustment.
I'll second it.
Cliff Rebufo,
yes.
Art Christie,
Yes.
John Horn,
Yes.
Alan Shiner,
Yes.
Sam Spada.
Yes.
Okay. So,
It's everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne, I didn't say
So-
Joanne.
yeah.
Vivian.
You didn't
The-
call
oh,
me.
you-
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I was like,
And I made the motion, so I didn't know.
no, you're right. I'm sorry,
You
Vivian
were counted
Walton.
first, Dylan.
Vivian Welton?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
All right, you are all set.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I really couldn't hear it.
Oh, I said you are, I'm not muted, am I? No. I said you're all set. We, did you hear
It
that?
was approved.
It was approved. Oh, you really can't hear. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I heard a vote going on, but I didn't know what it was voting for.
Yes, voting for your application. It was approved as submitted. Do we have all the copies of the maps?
They only, yeah, you each got one, but yeah.
And
They're sketch plan right now.
Yeah, we need the copies and we need the Mylar.
Mhm. Can I call Sarah and ask her what that
You can.
requirements are?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
And then I'll have that taken care of. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Sure. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
You'll drop them off and then I have to just meet with you and sign them at some
Yeah.
point. Once he
Okay.
drops, just let me know and
Okay.
I'll come by. All right. Anybody have any other business? Howard?
Yeah, I spoke with Don Brewer today, and about 2 parcels on Baker Road in Woodland Valley, and a single party has bought both of these parcels. One is a half an acre, and the other is a quarter of an acre. And they're proposing to combine the 2 lots, basically. And the question from Don and for me as well is, do they need to come through the planning board for approval of that? Or can it just be something that happens through the regular process of combining the 2 lots, notifying the county? So I told Don I would ask that question tonight and get some direction from the board.
May I speak?
Yeah, please.
Is there a house on each lot?
No, the quarter acre lot is a vacant land.
Yeah, what I'm asking though, Howie, is there a house on each? It's 2 separate lots now.
2 separate lots, one has a dwelling and the other is vacant land.
The other is vacant land.
Yeah. And he's proposing to put the septic system on that lot.
Right, so what Don is asking, if he merges those 2 together, does he have to come to this
Can you
board?
hear?
Yes.
I think he does, just to give us an informational and put it into the minutes and have it recorded with the town, and then he can take the map to the county and change the section lot and block and merge them together.
So would that be a lot line adjustment?
Well, that's what
Yeah, that's
my concept. I think it is within our town code that if you own 2 undersized lots.
They're supposed to be combined.
Yes,
they
you
should be
can.
Combined, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they should have been combined a long time ago.
Well, they were owned by different parties.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is just have Don come to us, present it to us so we can put it into the minutes and we have records of it, and then he can go off to the county and register it with the county.
Okay.
And that's a good thing. Anytime we can merge 2 undersized lots, that's a positive.
All right, does that answer your question?
Yep.
Anybody, anything else?
I have a question. I'm wondering if it's the responsibility of the town board or the planning board, or in fact, whose responsibility it is. With the legalization of marijuana now, that particular type of business is going to have to be put into our permitted uses in a zone. And I assume that it wouldn't be next to a church or a school or something like this.
I think it's the 500-foot rule for alcohol.
Yeah, so is it our responsibility as the planning board, or is it the town's board to write a letter to the zoning board to find out a way how to adapt this into our zoning?
I would guess it would be a town decision.
Okay.
I think the planning board could make
We could send them a letter, right?
direction.
Yeah, just like a recommendation,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Well, that brings up another subject. This STR, we've had 2 committees, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And at the same time, this is going on in our communities, and we're seeing, corporations, LLCs coming in and buying up the properties that are available. And it's almost going to seem, it seems to be that by the time we even get to a place where we approve something, it'll be a moot point because everything's going to be sold. So I think I would suggest maybe the planning board could review the committee results and make a suggestion to the town board, which will be their decision ultimately, to at least bring this up at the meetings and, start moving forward.
And it's my understanding that this is supposed to be on the agenda for the next town board meeting. That was just something I heard. I didn't get from any officials.
Well, I had heard it was going to be on the agenda for the last meeting. This is what I was told. And
It seems to me that committee, which I sat on, was comprised of members from the town board, from the zoning board of appearance, and the planning board. Those findings should go straight to the town board. I don't think there's any purpose served by having an intermediary.
And that's already been done, correct? That the
yes,
committee made a report
yes,
submitted
and
it to the
that was
town
probably,
board.
I don't know, Sam, you might.
How-
I think that was probably a year ago.
That was before COVID.
So you guys completed, you came up with a solution and submitted it, and then it's kind of just sat in the town board?
Yeah, COVID took the pressure off of STR for a while. We had our final meetings, last couple of meetings, we were already at that point isolated, couldn't come into town hall, but it's ready to resume and it's ready to go to town hall for consideration. The town board, I should say.
So it would probably come up at the next town board meeting, I would imagine.
Well, I would imagine that it would have come up a long time ago, but it hasn't.
Should we write a letter about this as well, requesting that they give us, because it keeps coming up. It comes before us, and we don't have a solution.
Yeah, it's time to resume. COVID did put things on hold for a bit, but now we should reconsider.
The planning
Go
board.
back on track.
The planning board's requesting that it's the STR committee resumes.
Or just the town board, we just would like to know where the process is.
Okay.
I guess.
This puts Howie in a terrible position because
you have
these
no
things
idea.
are just growing all around us.
And then there's violations in our department, but they're just an Airbnb.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
And how do you enforce
I
them?
tried to actually go to the Airbnb the back way. I don't know.
I mean,
It doesn't
we had,
work.
at the last meeting, we had someone come in and ask for a permit to do an Airbnb. And there was no answer. Ultimately, the board said, well, we can't approve anything because we don't have a rule yet or regulations yet, so.
Until then, we have to treat it just as a building permit, correct?
Well, he took out a building permit to modify the motel, to upgrade it. And the motel existed for many years.
Right.
And, but now he came in and he wanted to turn the residence, which was never a motel, into an Airbnb.
Right, but he's not actually changing it from the original house plan, is that correct? It just, upgrading it? Or?
No, he wanted to have up to 18 people staying, so there's 8 people in the motel, and then there would be another 5 bedrooms in the house that he wanted to, put as part of the Airbnb proposal.
So that would be under the STR rule when that takes effect?
Yeah, the SDR,
Right, which doesn't exist yet, yeah.
doesn't
Right.
exist, and I just wonder if the planning board had made a report about how the members feel about what the SDR committee came up with. They came up with a proposal.
I think they did a good job of putting all the different angles together in a proposal. I was there at most of the meetings, and I think that, as Sam said, they pretty much went through the whole process and came out with the best results they could. And that was understood that then when the committee was ready to submit its report, which I understand was already done, then the town board would take it from there. And I agree, COVID has been delaying everything.
Yeah,
But now that seems to be, if town hall is opening, that certainly frees up a lot of things that haven't been happening.
Well, the town board meetings have been happening.
Right, but not open to the public, is that right?
Well, no, there was time when we had a phone line open for,
Right.
but I'm just wondering, has the planning board said to the town, communicated to the town board that we approve these findings, or we want to make recommendations?
Planning board doesn't have a role in approving those findings. That committee was established to report and make recommendations to the town board. COVID created a hiatus. The hiatus is ending. Now move on to the next step. It goes to the town board.
Well, yes, but I think the town board, the planning board, could, as.
Everybody will get an opportunity to weigh in. There's nothing secret, but putting a gatekeeper between that report and the town board is something I object to vehemently.
And I'm sure, I understand that the town board is motivated to move forward on it. That's my understanding. So I don't think they're causing any delays. I don't know why it didn't come up at this last meeting, but I'm pretty sure it will come up at the next one.
If I remember correctly, with this motel situation, wasn't he looking for a CO? He had gotten a building permit.
Yes.
And everything was approved, and he came to get a CO.
Yes.
Was there a CO ever issued to him?
No, he was supposed to contact me after that meeting. We had a very short discussion, and he was to contact me. And when I go out there, do I inspect it as a motel? He doesn't want a motel. He wants an Airbnb. And so you couldn't approve that special use permit, and I can't issue a CO until you approve that what he has there is a motel. It's very complicated, but he hasn't contacted me.
Wasn't that a motel previously, or?
Exactly, it was, yes.
But not the private residence.
Not the private residence.
But the house was not there? I thought that.
The house has been there longer than the motel, but it was always used as a single-family residence.
Right, but how does that affect the CO? Because if it's.
Because he's turning the house into an Airbnb, which is a change of use.
But
it's not a listed change of use, so we can't. So it's
We
just,
don't have rules on Airbnb.
so it's just a single family
Get it to the town board.
We don't
Yeah, it's
have
just
rules on
it's a
Airbnb.
single-family residence that he wants to convert to an Airbnb.
You don't have rules, only the town board can establish rules. Let's move the recommendations forward.
yeah, we can't, there's nothing where we can rule on. It's a every other Airbnb is a
Exactly.
single family residence.
We can encourage the town board to resolve the problem.
Yes, I
That's
agree,
what-
Sam. I agree
You know,
that this
what do
has
we
to,
do?
I agree with Sam that this has to go to the town board. It's up to them to make a decision.
I agree.
What has to go to the town board, this particular or the STR?
Or the STR thing in general.
Well, the SDS, if the SDS goes to the town board, then that would encompass this particular
I think we just need to just
situation.
little,
But-
You know,
That's
if you
just-
remember at the last meeting, I said that it would need to be 2 special permits. The motel, you could have granted him approval for the motel.
he didn't want that though.
No, so leaves me in limbo. What do I do?
Can they just be treated as a single family residence?
Well, they're 2 separate buildings.
But as,
So if he could come into the planning board and say, I want to turn the residence into a motel, which would require a special use permit. But that would be a separate permit than the motel, which is more of a site plan review.
but he's not applying as a motel.
No, he wants it to be Airbnb.
It would lose its, so it would have to be a single family residence then. Am I incorrect in that? So it's a single family residence. He applied for a permit as a single family residence and he wants a CO or,
He applied for a permit for the 4 bedrooms motel. That's the only permit
oh.
he applied
Yes.
for. He didn't apply for anything on, no, nothing on the house did he apply for. If he's done things, he didn't apply with Howie.
Okay.
He applied for a building permit with Howie for the 4, to renovate this 4.
So then
And
the
he
so
says
then,
Motel Inn.
okay, so the house isn't even part of our discussion here at this
Not
board.
right, Howie?
Until we get a ruling on
He-
the STR thing.
He took out a permit to redo the front entry steps for the residents, which
Okay.
I approved and sent him a CC for that.
Okay,
That's
so
done.
the house is done and over.
I was never inside the house.
Okay. And then the motel, he's not applying, he applied for the building permit.
Yes, and I told them from the start that they would have to go through site plan review.
So he applied for a building permit for a motel.
It says I mean, it's upstairs here.
Well,
I
Go
think
here.
it said
That's okay.
Okay.
it might have been renovation to existing.
Didn't we have this discussion before?
Yeah.
Am I dreaming? Or
You are
didn't
not,
we have-
you are not dreaming, no.
Yeah, we had the discussion, but it's still spinning in my world.
Well, I mean, it's still, yeah, because it's very much in Howie's life.
It's still open.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Is there any structural problem with the work itself? Or is there any reason why
No,
the
the-
building would not be habitable? Is there a reason why?
No, the work was wonderful. It was
So it's just
top
a
quality
matter
work.
of the special use permit that he asked for that he doesn't want anymore? Because he just wants it to be certified as a sound building up to code and get a certificate of occupancy? Is
So
that
it's just-
possible?
I mean, I can't fix it. I mean, the town board is gonna be the people that'll have to fix it.
But I mean, can he use the building as a,
Technically, he cannot use the building because he doesn't have a CO.
but he's not applying for a CO as a motel anymore?
No, he wants a CO, yes.
So he just wants a CO for the building itself?
But that would be as a single family residence, can't you just?
Well, it would be the motel, and then the house would have to be treated separately.
Are they on the same piece of property?
Yeah, it's all one parcel.
Oh, there's 2 parcels.
So, anyway, I'm just trying to get the ball rolling on this whole STR thing because it's happening so quickly here in this town, and it's just, I mean, this has been going on for 2 years. And,
Way too long, Howie, I agree.
Mhm.
Way too long. If we write a letter to the town board asking them for a determination on how they're handling the STRs and see if we can get the board to meet with the group with the STRs and come up with a solution here. This is, I can see this becoming a major problem because I still get the real estate newspapers and I see a lot of these sales, like Howie says, are taking place from LLCs.
All day long.
These people are not buying these houses for a residence.
No.
These people
Not
are
even
buying
close.
houses for business. And it's even come to the point legally that there's an issue with these LLCs because the banks are now giving mortgages to more than one family to buy a residential house. You'll have 4 partners getting together, starting an LLC, purchasing a house, and before you know it, it's an STR. So, I mean, this is really getting complicated quickly. So I think we have to stop it and at least try to control it.
We just need to request a finding from the board, I guess, right?
You can't stop corporations from buying property.
No, you can't. No, you
You
can't.
can't stop corporations, you can't stop trust funds, you can't stop that. That's America, they can buy property. You guys don't, you're going down the wrong route here. Whether it's an LLC or a regular corporation or a partnership or you can't stop that. That's legal in the United States.
You're right, Alan, you're 100% right.
But the insurance to do the work, if that's illegal, that's where we
It's
can.
all about use, not who owns it.
That's what it's about. It's about use.
So for this particular instance, I'm just thinking out loud here, put aside the STR question, which has to be resolved by the town. It seems to me this guy has a single-family residence, which he can continue to do whatever he wants with as a single-family residence, that happens to have an accessory use, a 4-unit guest cottage. And he's putting something back into use that had been abandoned for a long time. I think that's a net benefit for the town. Can't he just get that accessory use approved for now? And when we get STR rules on the books, then he can take the next step.
That's an interesting point, Sam. What would happen if it was a motel and the owner of the motel lived in the house and came and got a building permit to redo the inside of his house? Wouldn't that be similar? And then he just used it as an STL.
We literally just split a motel and a house apart a few months ago.
Yeah, well, I think you gave him that option to do that, and he was not interested in that.
No, we offered, we tried to give him a, move to a special permit.
He was pretty insistent that he didn't want a motel.
He didn't want a motel.
Which is a permitted use, special
Right.
use permit. So.
I mean, there's,
Howie, if you give him the CMO as a motel, and he chooses not to use it as a motel, is that a problem?
Well, that's for you to decide.
I offered him that, he didn't want it.
But, I mean, if,
He said it wasn't, he called it a antiquated word or a legacy word or something. He didn't.
but if he doesn't actually run it as a motel, then he
That's-
doesn't have to go through all the.
That's what
whatever hoops they put
we
into a
went
motel,
through
and he
this.
still have it legally.
So if he chooses to not take the advice to try and help him along, then his project stays in limbo until STR legislation is adopted by the town. It's his choice. If he wants to wait months and months, he can wait months and months.
So, Sam, what are you suggesting?
I don't think
that
he
we
gets
do?
that.
Yeah, nothing, we're suggesting nothing. And
Yeah.
then- All right, that's enough. Let's move on. Anything else?
So the pump storage.
Got defeated, yep, officially withdrawn, if anyone didn't hear. They submitted a letter to FERC, that it's done, it's not happening, they're looking elsewhere.
Elsewhere could still be a problem though, because they're looking at the other reservoirs in the water.
At the Rondout and Neversink. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to put up a sign in Lanesville that says, future site of the Lanesville Reservoir. And that'd get everybody in Lanesville to stir up. Future site of the dam. I had another question. I noticed that on Route 214, there's a house, I think it was Suzanne, I forget her last name.
Suzanne Culp?
Yeah. It now has a sign out in front that it's selling, forget the name of it.
Yeah, we
Oh, no,
emailed
no.
her, she needs a sign permit.
But that, do they have to come
No.
to you or to us?
No, it's Hamlet Commercial.
So it's just permitted?
It's permitted.
It's permitted.
Except for the sign, it
Except
needs
for
a
the
permit.
sign.
So we've contacted her.
Oh, but was Suzanne was actually had a business there supposedly?
That's not,
That's
that
the
wasn't
next
our
house
house.
over.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's closer to
There's a
town.
new business, there's a new sign and a business and a house in Hamlet Commercial that's permitted use.
So they don't have to go to anybody,
Except for the sign, they need a
or the sign?
building permit for a sign.
And what came up at the last meeting was the log pile on 214,
Plank.
Plank Road, and the contractor's yard adjacent to where Margot's restaurant used to be. And they've both been notified that they have to go through a special use permit.
Thank you.
The one on Plank Road, looks more like a contractor yard to me now than it had been like a month ago.
I think I drove by that, it's a huge pile of
Oh,
logs.
yeah.
It's pretty tall.
It looks very dangerous, yeah.
Do you know what they're planning to do with the logs?
Well, I know he sells firewood. He has a processing machine there, and I spoke with him, and he said, well, what if I just burn it in my wood stove?
He's good for the apocalypse.
He's ready for mine.
Well, he has one of those outdoor furnaces that
He has an outdoor furnace, yes, but,
it lasts a while.
yeah. Like,
You have to drive by there and see how big, how high you can make a pile of logs.
I'd say it's
Style
12 feet easily.
Stacking cylindrical pipe that high without intermediate chocks and without stacking would not be allowed on a construction site. You would not be allowed. You'd be shut down by OSHA. And this guy's doing it on private property. One good rain, we could have people hurt.
Mm-hmm.
No excuse for what he's doing. I support the idea of having a business, but you got to protect your neighbors and yourself.
It's gotta be really funny.
Anyway, well, you spoke to him, it's in, we'll be
Yeah.
seeing him. Okay, great.
He's not happy about it.
I
But.
think he's one of the last.
He'll be here.
And then the other one he was saying is the one that Joanne had brought up at a workshop on 28, next to Margot's
Oh, yeah.
contractor's yard.
Yes.
I don't know if you could hear him. Yeah.
Okay. He'll be before us as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. He was
All right.
advised 21 years ago by the planning board to get a special use permit. I've had to read all the minutes. Swear.
Wow,
I
good,
guess
good.
that's it.
Wow, that's some quality sleuthing, Sarah.
Howie and I, we're actually code investigators now.
Okay. Oh, that's impressive. I think we're done.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Second?
Do I-
Aye. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, all in favor?
The quicker the
Aye.
better, Sarah.
Okay.
Bye-bye, guys.
All right, see you. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Take care,
Good night.
guys.
Well, I didn't do my job very well. I'll send this all to you tomorrow.
Yeah, if you just.
Okay, Clifton. Turn this thing off. I pushed everybody.
The file is more expensive, I pulled out.
It was just a letter that was mentioned.
Top on the side.
Okay.
bottom.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, Sarah, I meant to say something to you about our last, online system.
Yeah.
You were much too close to the camera.
Oh, sorry. I was hiding from my entire family, including my parents. We're in town, so sorry about that. I will, I'll stay away from the camera. I'm literally hiding in my bed. Like,
Look,
above the
okay,
covers.
but you-
My husband came into the room, like, get out. So I'm sorry. I was literally the only quiet person in my house.
You look really good though.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
close-up suits you.
So, I'm sorry that there which shows what he asked for. So I'll send it all tomorrow.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine.
Some of us won't look too good with such a close-up.
oh God, no.
But Sarah looks fine.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I hope we're done with this weirdness soon. Able to just.
That guy Vivicoff, I mean, I don't know if he was trying to confuse us or he just